Nobody knows where he came from. Nobody knows where he'll go next. They just call him Gully. Gully borrowed a large cooking pot from his neighbor. A week later, he gave it back, with a tiny pot sitting inside it. "What's this?" the neighbor asked. "Your pot had a baby," Gully said, dead serious. "This is the child. It's yours now." The neighbor didn't even blink. Free pot. Deal closed. A month later, Gully borrowed the big pot again, and again, and again, 4 times. The 5th time, the neighbor came to collect it himself. Gully opened the door with the saddest face anyone had ever seen. "I have terrible news," he said, wiping a fake tear. "Your pot died." The neighbor exploded. "Pots don't die. Pots aren't alive." Gully looked at him without blinking. Really, and it had no trouble giving birth. The neighbor opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. Gully wandered into a small stall at the market, empty except for 2 men sitting across from each other, talking. Curious, he stepped inside. "Greetings," Gully said. "What do you sell here?" One of the men smirked, hoping to have a little fun at the stranger's expense. "Donkeys," he said. "We sell donkeys." Gully looked around at the completely empty stall, then back at the 2 of them. "Just the 2 of you? Or is there more stock somewhere?" The man's smirk disappeared so fast his friend had to look away to keep a straight face. Gully walked into the inn one evening and called the innkeeper over. "I have a proposal for you," he said. "Let's hear it," the innkeeper replied, wiping a cup. "I bet you $500 that I can pour this glass of orange juice into that empty mug on the 2nd shelf, from all the way over here, without spilling a single drop." The innkeeper grinned. "You're on." Gully threw the full glass. Orange juice went everywhere except the mug, all over the bar, the bottles, the tables, and especially all over the innkeeper. The innkeeper, now soaked and covered in sticky orange stains, shouted, "What the hell, Gully? Everything is ruined. Pay up the $500. Gully smiled and placed the $500 on the counter. The innkeeper snapped, "Why are you smiling? You just lost $500. Gully grinned and said, "I didn't lose. I bet those 2 guys by the window $1,000 that I could pour orange juice all over the inn, especially on you, and that you would still end up smiling anyway." The innkeeper stared at him for a moment, then looked down at the money in his hand and burst out laughing. Gully's friend called from the big city, practically shouting with excitement. "You have to come here. People are so rich, they drop coins in the street and don't even look back." Gully sold 2 goats to afford the trip. That's how much he believed it. He arrives. First 5 minutes in the city, there's a gold coin, right there, on the sidewalk. Gully stops, stares at it, looks left, looks right, steps over it, keeps walking. A stranger nearby frowns. "Why didn't you pick that up?" Gully doesn't even turn around. "I'm not going to start working on my first day here." Gully owed money to every shopkeeper in town for 10 straight years. Then one day, he won the lottery. Huge money. By sunrise, every single shopkeeper was lined up at his door. 3 months passed, still not a single debt paid. Finally, they stormed his house, furious. "You have all the money now. Why haven't you paid any of us?" Gully looked at them, genuinely surprised, and said, "You waited 10 years when I had nothing to lose. I just figured you could wait a little longer, now that I finally have something to lose." The shopkeepers stood there in silence, then slowly walked away, still unpaid. Gully goes to the cinema. Right as the movie starts, a big bald man sits directly in front of him, The screen light reflects brightly off the bald head, making it hard for Gully to watch. Gully is annoyed but stays quiet. Then a man sits next to Gully and whispers, "If you slap the back of that bald guy's head, I'll pay you $50. Gully doesn't even hesitate. He leans forward and smacks the bald man hard on the back of the head. Then Gully says loudly, "Mike, bro, you here?" The bald man turns around furious. "I'm not Mike." Gully replies casually, "Sorry man, my mistake," and takes the $50. The man next to him gets excited and says, "Do it again and I'll give you $100. Gully slaps the bald guy even harder and says, "Mike, stop messing around." The bald man, now furious, moves to a seat further in front. The man next to Gully spots him again and says, "There he is. Slap him one more time and you can have all the cash in my pocket." Gully walks over, smacks the bald man hard on the head, and says, "Mike, I've been looking all over for you.